Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, Teacher Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host. I got the head of security for Coconut Pete, Mr. James O'Reilly, in the house tonight.
Oh man, in that case, I don't have much longer. We gotta hurry this up.
So how's the tour going? You guys playing a lot of shows?
It's going about as good as it can expect, as you can expect. We're playing Jones Beach next week. That's
Oh,
kind of like our Super Bowl. So,
it's a good spot right there, especially now that there's a big window open with a Jimmy Buffett deficit right now. Coconut Pete can go hard.
wait, Jimmy Buffett's not playing at Jones Beach. What
Jimmy
happened?
Buffett, well, Jimmy Buffett's dead.
What? When did Jimmy Buffett die?
I think he died like last year, like over the summer. I'm pretty sure he
Wow,
died.
it's amazing. You leave Long Island, and all of a sudden, you just stop hearing about Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, actually, Jimmy Buffett died 2 years ago, Jim. September 1st, 2023. Died in Sag Harbor.
Yeah, right. Sag Harbor, there you go. If I was on Long Island, there is no way I wouldn't have known that. And like the fact that I'm off Long Island, I feel like is the real catalyst for me having no idea.
It's an absolute crime on your end there. A huge deficit in the Jimmy Buffett knowledge institution here on Long Island.
Is it a
Clint,
crime though? Like,
no,
is
no.
it?
I mean, it depends on how much you love Margaritaville, I guess. I talking about the restaurant, not the song.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because the song, whatever, it's fine. It's like
Yeah,
a fun little like
the
beach
song,
song.
the
But
song, fine, but those
but
volcano nachos.
yeah, but like Margaritaville is more than just a song. It's even more than just a restaurant. It's a way of life. And that's kind of like what this movie is like poking fun at, right?
I mean, I think you're thinking of our tune Pina Colada Burger, Jim, but to each their own. And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
We're watching the Broken Lizard follow-up to Super Troopers, Club Dread.
Right, the 2004 horror comedy directed by Jay Chandrasekhar. Does that sound right to you? I'm going with
Sure.
that. Yeah, you butchered it last time. I'll butcher it this time. And written and starring the Broken Lizard Boys and the almighty Bill Paxton.
Yeah, that was like I did not remember that, and it blew my mind when I was like, "Wait, is that Bill Paxton? Bill
That
Paxton plays Coconut Pete?"
has to be one of the greatest pickups for these guys is getting Bill Paxton in this. And it probably was like Bill Paxton saw Super Troopers and was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll be in those guys movie." Like,
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense to me. And
yeah,
I honestly had forgotten that I knew that it was like about a resort and that went wild. I completely forgot the whole angle that it was about like a Jimmy Buffett analog.
oh yeah, that it was like a Jimmy Buffett knockoff resort.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it definitely helps add an extra layer to it. We got the DVD cover here. We're going to the back for our lovely little log line, and it reads: Welcome to Coconut Pete's Pleasure Island, a booze soaked vacation resort where high spirited fun soon takes a deadly turn, leaving the island's hilarious inept staff to battle a machete wielding maniac. Broken Lizard's Club Dread is a comedy to die for.
Oh,
Got there. They got there in
low-hanging
the
fruit.
end. Absolutely. Did you see this movie in theaters?
No, I did not. This is
Oh.
when I didn't catch this until like way later, honestly. Well, not way later, but probably not until after Beer Fest had happened.
Oh, really? Do you think I showed it to you? Because we're like really cinching the spot where we're going to the movies now.
Potentially, yeah, you might have been the one.
Yeah, I could have been the one. I could have been the one. Big Rob, me, and Zach went and saw this because we went and saw Super Troopers together. Love Super Troopers, so naturally we were obviously going to go see the next Broken Lizard movie because their sense of humor really speaks to me back then, and it still speaks to me today. They always just knew how to make me laugh. So this was fun to go back to because I don't think I've watched Club. We talked a little bit last week about the highs and lows of Broken Lizard with Beer Fest and Super Troopers really being the top of the heap, that some of these other ones aren't the ones that we'll return to more often. So it was fun to go back to this one and rediscover a lot of the humor from this movie.
Yeah. I might even go as far as to say is the one that I really like, really the only one I rewatch consistently is Beer Fest.
Yeah. I honestly don't think I can tell you the last time I watched it. Like I know we used to watch Beer Fest all the time. Whenever we'd all like be together, like a house party or whatever, like drinking or doing anything, we'd have it on in the background because that movie was just like a way of life for us at that age. Like when
Yeah,
you're 17, 18, and your way of life is drinking beers, like Beer Fest is the movie.
yeah. Landfill was like my Jimmy Buffett, like
A real life institution is land.
yeah.
But
Uh,
par the course for what seems to be these Broken Lizard movies are some interesting returns at the box office. Let's cue it up, Jim. Let's dive into some box office numbers.
Numbers, dates, and numbers, numbers, dates, hooray, dates, numbers. Show me the money.
all right, we are calling a quick audible on the play because the
Oh,
budget is not on Box Office
you got
Mojo.
up and didn't like the play.
And I have done
I
absolutely nothing to prepare for this, so I have to try and find
I can
it.
give you the budget if you'd like, good sir.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
go for
I
it.
can.
What's the budget of this? If you remember
Wiki,
correctly, Super Troopers was against a paltry $1 million,
yeah,
and it
Super
was like
Troopers very low.
a
Uh,
pretty big success compared to that. So I'm interested to see how much money they got this time around.
so Wikipedia lists this movie with a budget of $8.6 million.
Ooh, that is steep. That
Big
is
jump
that
from the 8 million. Still keeping it under 10 though. So still a good opportunity to make some money here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not like the same kind of thing that we've seen for other movies we've done recently, right? Where they're getting into like the big double digits. But it
Usually
is
you get a
like,
movie that like usually group like Super Troopers or somebody comes out with their first movie ends up being a big success off of a low budget. Their next at bat, they usually throw like 20, $30 million at them. So it's interesting here that they still kept it under the 10.
yeah, I mean, do you feel like they do that for comedy movies though? Like, because the one thing I would say about this, and we talked a little bit about Bill Paxton being in it, but it's not like there's like a big like comedy star, right? Like, which I feel like is where most of your money's going if you do a like 20 or $30 million comedy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I mean, outside of the Broken Lizard Boys, like Bill Paxton had he ever done a comedy? Or I feel like he's done movies that like he's a comedic element of the movie, but I don't think he's ever done like a straight comedy ever.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't think Bill Paxton was like, "All right, I'll do your movie, but I'm gonna need $5 million." He was probably like, "Oh yeah, Super Troopers was really funny. Yeah, I'll come do this movie. Why not?"
He was just like, yo, give
Um,
me that guitar, like throw me some booze, I'll be coconut Pete.
yeah. So I don't know. It's just interesting to me because I know Super Troopers was kind of a hit, but it just feels like I don't even remember if Super Troopers I would have thought was a hit if they spent $10 million making it instead of one.
Yeah, well, I mean, Super Troopers, that 1 million budget comparative, I think we can go to our final gross here. Let's find it for Super Troopers. So Super Troopers off of that 1 million budget finishes at $23 million. So comparative to the budget, that's a pretty big win right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. And I mean, you're probably thinking, all right, we'll let them spend 8 million, even if they like totally miss. Like they're still in the green,
Yeah.
they're still
Still
in
in
the
the
black.
green. We'll still make some money on home video. Like we got opportunities here.
And unfortunately, those opportunities are not really gonna come to fruition. Give
Yeah,
me one second.
Club Dread really the black sheep of the early Broken Lizard guys. Because obviously post Beer Fest, most of their movies end up not even really making it to theaters to the point that you don't even really see them doing anything today other than like TV. I think two of them were on like a firefighter show on TV. But really like
Yeah,
the
one of them
era,
was on Tacoma
yeah,
FD,
Tacoma FD.
or
That's
two of them were.
two
No,
of
you're
them,
right.
two of
You're
them.
right. It
Yeah.
is two of them.
But like really that early generation of them, Super Troopers, Club Dread, Beer Fest, was like their big theatrical window. And then I guess you could kind of loop Dukes of Hazzard in there too, since Jay made that, and I think a couple of them cameo in it.
Yeah, yeah, he directed it, but that's definitely more in the line of like what we were just talking about, where it's like you get Sean William Scott and you get Johnny Knoxville, and that movie probably costs you a pretty penny compared to these, right?
Well, we'll find out when we have to do that movie in however long.
Yeah. But so anyway, Club Dread is gonna open the weekend of February 29th, 27th through the 29th of 2004. We're
A
kind of
leap
through the
year.
dead period here.
Oh, a leap year win for Club Dread.
Oh, that's right. It's a leap year, the 29th.
Dude, they got
Whoa,
that
it's
extra day to
actually
make some money.
yeah. What a shrewd business move to get the extra box office day. It's
Genius,
gonna
genius.
open down in 10th place.
Oh, dear Lord. Yeah, Jim, I think an opening intent deserves that to be played twice. Hit me again with that. Ooh, doggy.
Yeah, and like we talked about it, this is kind of why I was harping so much on the budget, is because it comes in 10th place with 3,035,000.
Oh my God. Yeah, that
Right.
Jim,
So like,
that's a record on here. That's the worst opening that we've done so far that manages to do worse than Hey Arnold the movie, which is our previous holder of that title with a paltry 5.7.
yeah, and I mean, it's behind in ninth place, the fourth week of Barbershop 2 back in business.
Oh my God.
In eighth place, the second week of Welcome to Mooseport.
Oh my God.
In seventh, the second week of Eurotrip.
Yeah,
It
so just
loses
like
to Dirty Dancing Havana Nights, which I didn't even realize actually came out in theaters. I thought it was just like
yeah, I
a
thought that was a
DVD.
direct to DVD movie. I wonder, do we think this movie has a bad release date?
Um, I don't know. I mean, like, I have a feeling you're gonna say maybe it lives a little bit better in August, is I feel like what you're
It
gonna
would.
say.
And I don't say that just because, comedies usually live better in the summer, but with the island tropical theme and everything, I feel like it fits better as like a hot summer dog day of summer movie.
Yeah, I suppose. It's
But I
just like I
I
think the
also
problem with it is kind of what we were just talking about is there's no stars in this movie. Like Bill Paxton is like
the
in
biggest draw.
maybe like a third or fourth build role, and he's not really like the drive of the movie.
I also
Um,
wonder what the marketing probably was for this movie. I can't imagine this movie was marketed hard. So I wonder if it went very unseen by a lot of people too. Like outside of people that were in from Super Troopers, like how many new audience members you think got eyes on this?
right, right. Probably not a ton, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what I mean with the release date. Like, if you saw and loved Super Troopers, and you're paying enough attention to know that those guys are releasing another movie, you're seeing it like no matter when it comes out, right? Um, so I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that could have like saved this one. Or like, I mean, it's also keep in mind Super Troopers is kind of a cult movie. I don't know if Club Dread necessarily needs to be saved because they didn't spend $8 million on this necessarily to turn it into like a blockbuster, right? Like they're not necessarily expecting to win big at the box office. They just know again they have the safety net of DVD sales and home video to put in their pocket, which will probably turn this into like at least a small win by the time it's all said and done, you know?
Enough to keep them working.
Yeah, enough where like nobody's losing their shirts anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
um, this is also the opening weekend of a movie that is it's dread it, run from it. It is inevitable. The Passion of the Christ.
It is looming like a specter over our heads.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having a bit of regret about making such a strong stance about it. I know I can't back out now.
You
Believe me,
can't you
we're
can't walk
we're
back
we're
from those
locked
claims.
in.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of like, man, do I really want to watch this and talk about it online? I don't know.
We really give credence to Mel Gibson at this point in time.
Yeah. And I think I've filled about as much time as I can. It's no surprise that in its second week, Club Dread, which opened number 10, drops out of the top 10.
Oh my God, that's got to be the quickest in and out I've ever seen.
This
Uh,
is this is rough. Hold on, I
yeah.
got more here.
Okay.
We talk a lot about drops, right? And
Yeah.
how when you start with a big number, it's kind of like you're more predisposed to have a bigger drop, and when you start with a small number, maybe your drop sounds pretty good, even if it's that you're still pulling in like pretty small totals, right?
Absolutely.
Club Dread in its second week is going to drop all the way down to 16th place. It's a 76.6% drop
Oh my
to
God.
$710,000 or
Oh,
944.
oh my God. It couldn't. Jim, this
Yeah.
has got to be one of the worst performing movies we've seen thus
It's
far.
easily the worst first 2 weeks of a movie at the box
Yeah.
office we've ever
Like,
seen, for
like
sure.
Kung Pao Enter the Fist didn't drop that hard.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the only solace here is that it's only on 1,800 screens, which is a lot less than we see for, like, movies that are, like, really, really wide releases.
Yeah.
But it's still a pretty wide release. It's not, like, enough to be like, oh, yeah. Like, it's not like they were in, like, 25 theaters and they're, like, not doing well. Like, they're pretty out there. They're probably about as out there as they're ever going to be at this point.
Yeah. God. And that 1 week, so not it's gonna tie now with Hey Arnold the movie again for the lowest time spent in the top 10 at 1 week. So just masterful work by these two movies that we're seeing here. This is such a shame to see. Luckily, we have the hindsight of knowing that this movie has gone on to become a cult classic. So maybe that's a bit of a glass half full for them.
I don't know if I is this one a cult classic though? Like this, like we were talking about, kind of like I feel like gets lost in the whole Broken Lizard conversation. I feel like we
Well,
talked about it where
not to the level that Super Troopers, kind of became a cult classic, but I do see it talked about with people that this one also falls into the contention with them. I wouldn't label Beer Fest a cult classic because that one was probably one of the only movie they made that actually broke into the mainstream and was a
right,
like success across the board. Like that movie was just a well received, like did fine at the box office movie. Like there's
right.
no need to re-examine that down the line like these ones have.
Yeah, it's also like their most polished movie. It's got like the most stars in it. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely more of like a Hollywood production compared to these first two. So yeah,
I'm
not quite
sorry.
cult
Did you
classic.
say stars? What stars are in Beer Fest?
Cloris Leachman.
Oh, fuck off. Fuck off.
Like for one, hold on. You're really gonna make me
Fuck,
do this right
fuck
now?
off.
You're gonna make me do this right
If
now.
you're telling me Club Dread ain't pulling in money off of Bill Paxton, then Beer Fest certainly ain't pulling dollars out of Cloris Leachman at that point in time.
No, but like it's I don't all right, that's fair. Stars is maybe not the right word.
There's
But
people in it. I don't know if
it's
stars is
got
the right adjective to use for them.
it's got like a
Like
lot of like
Nelson is in it for like two
recognizable people in
seconds.
it, might be the way to put it. Whereas like sure, there's nobody that stars in Club Dread either, but like, who like you don't recognize any of those people, right? Like from anything besides Bill Paxton and the Broken
Uh,
Lizard guys.
the one girl that works with them, the blonde, Brittany Daniels from White Chicks.
Oh, okay.
I remember her. She's also in Joe Dirt. That's Brandy, baby. You could
Yeah, yeah,
disrespect
yeah.
Brandy like
I
that?
thought that you were gonna go with Brandy, and then you said from White Chicks, and I was like, what?
Brandy.
Like, come on.
Don't tell Joe I found his parents. XOXO.
But like, aren't the Wolf House guys like some big comedians? Like the guys who play the Wolf Houses?
Are, but Jim, outside of us, who would know Nate Faxon and the dude from Dumb and Dumber or Eric Christian Olsen? Like
I mean, I think you just answered your own question. Eric Christian Olsen is literally a star. He just starred in a comedy last year in
Jim,
our podcast timeline.
Jim.
He was he was Lloyd, dude. The name of the movie was When Harry Met Lloyd. He was Lloyd.
All right, fine. You got one name guy.
No, and then the other one, the one that I was really thinking of is Will Forte. Do you remember
Yes,
that show that him and Dakota Johnson did?
it wasn't Will Forte. That was the other. That was Nate Faxon who was on the Raising Hope. You talking about?
No, not Raising Hope. Nate Faxon was on Raising Hope. Will Forte was on Ben and Kate.
I don't remember that show.
You don't remember Ben and Kate, bro?
Did we watch that?
Now that I'm looking at it, I'm also not even sure it was Will Forte that was on Ben
No,
and
it
Kate.
wasn't Will Forte. That's why you're throwing me off. What is? I didn't. It sounds recognizable, but I can't remember when we watch. Yeah,
It was
It's Nate Faxon again, dickhead.
all right, but one of them was in Ben and Kate. That was the point. Starring in his own sitcom, not a mere 7 years later.
I was gonna say that one
That's clearly a star.
a bit after Beer Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so but also that guy's in Club Dread too, Jim. So there you go.
Oh no, that doesn't count in Club Dread though.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, of course. Now it does it.
no.
So it's a
So
very
no,
loose,
you're not wrong though.
yeah,
There's not really like as many stars in Beer Fest either.
very
That's fair.
loose definition of stars.
I take it back. I will admit I was wrong.
There we go. Now segue your way back into these box office numbers. We hard
I mean,
tangent here.
I think we basically covered it. It was in the top 10 for 2 weeks.
We hard
Let me
line.
just let me scroll all the way
Let's
down here to 16th
let's
again, just
let's see
so I
some
can get back
totals.
to the totals. It finishes with 5 million domestic,
Jesus
2.6
Christ.
million international for a worldwide total of 7.6 million.
Oh my God. Couldn't even make the 8.6 back.
Yeah,
Again,
tough.
we're taking records across the board here. This is now going to be the lowest grossing worldwide movie that we've done so far on the podcast. 7.6, good enough to destroy Hey Arnold the movie's paltry 15.2. So I don't know where we'll come across a movie that can do worse than 7.6, but God, I hope we haven't watched it.
I mean, listen, we got plenty of time to get to 2024. There's got to be somebody who does it like in the 2020s, right?
I mean, even before that, I'm sure we'll come across. We watched a lot of shitty movies in the early 2000s when we started going to the movies together. Like, I'm sure we're going to come across a movie that can match that or possibly be worse than that.
I mean, it almost beat the new Mark Wahlberg movie.
Oh my, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. I'm disrespecting Flight Risk right now.
Mark Wahlberg and Topher Grace star
Over
in
is
a movie that probably doesn't make much sense.
starring in Mel Gibson's back in the director's chair, Flight Risk.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh
What a
yeah.
crazy movie for him to come back for.
To come back and do it. Well, listen, now that he's the ambassador for Hollywood, he needs to get movies out in the theaters. And Flight Risk is the perfect movie to bring to international
Yeah, yeah.
audiences to
Now
bring
that
them
he's
back
the
into the
ambassador
fold.
for Hollywood, he's got to churn out low quality genre schlock starring Mark Wahlberg. He
Yep.
can't make like good movies anymore.
Nope, not allowed to. Which really, if we're gonna go that route, why don't you just get Peter Berg back on the phone and be like, "Yeah, listen, you and Mark Wahlberg killed the 2010s together. We need you back.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The bat signals in the air. We need you guys." Now with such a horrible box office return, you can only imagine what the reception is like for this movie. But not it. I mean, it's low, but without returns, you'd think it'd be lower. 30% from the critics, 44% from the audience, a 5.7 from IMDb. And Jim, this movie was in such low theaters, there's not even a recorded cinema score for
Oh
it.
my God, it didn't even get a cinema score. How
Didn't
many
even
theaters do you need to be in to get a cinema score?
I have no idea, but it was the first time on the Cinema Score website that I put a movie in and they were like, "What the fuck you talking about?" They were like, "Sorry,
Wow.
sir, we cannot help you here. We are Simple Cinema Score. We have nothing for you."
Yeah, yeah.
So take that what you will. I
I
don't know
mean,
what.
I think I'm gonna look into this at some point as to like what that might mean exactly. Because like 1,800 theaters is pretty wide. It's not like
Yeah, I
so
would
small.
think. Yeah, I would think it would still get a Cinema Score. So I don't know why this one flew under the radar, or if maybe it's just been scrubbed from the Cinema Score website.
Maybe Cinema Score was boycotting it.
Yeah, I don't
They
know. Well,
hate Jimmy
but
Buffett.
yeah, not Jimmy Buffett fans. Or maybe they were too big of Jimmy Buffett fans and they couldn't stand the slander.
You heard it here first. The company Cinema Score hates Jimmy Buffett. That's allegedly.
Allegedly, man, like wow, they're really
I
gonna
I
kick a guy
just
while he's
alleged it,
dead?
but allegedly that's what they say.
I won't refute it. And then we got some audience reviews here, Jim, for Club Dread. We have a couple, nothing too crazy here because obviously not a lot of people even left reviews for this movie. So they're not going to be as amazing as we'd like. But we got this
Yeah,
first
I'd
person here.
imagine most of the people who would have been really angry about it, like don't even know that it exists.
Yeah, fair. Fair. There's probably a whole litany of people out there. Our conspiracy people probably never even got a chance to watch and review their thought
Right.
process on this movie.
They're like, I'll only spin conspiracies about things that have a B plus cinema score.
Not even a cinema score. How could I even rate this nonsense?
Yeah.
So we got our first reviewer here. They write, this movie is so dumb and stupid that you want to bring a fork in with you in the theater so you can gouge your eyes out. The lame jokes and corny gags make you want to vomit. The horrible cast with horrible fake accents make you want to rip off your ears and scream. Don't waste your time or money. Poor script, poor writing, poor acting, just plain poor.
Damn. There's like a real amazing amount of just like lack of self-awareness happening here where in one sentence the guy says, if you go see this movie, bring a fork so you can gouge your eyes out. And then in the next sentence he's like, and the jokes were lame. It's like I feel like you kind of phoned it in too, man. Like like you gotta be more clever than that.
All right. Should have got himself a ghostwriter for that bad boy. Our next reviewer here, this guy, he definitely takes the cake for these ones. He writes, this has to be one of the most utterly incompetent, embarrassing excuses for a film I have ever seen. Stultifyingly stupid, blindingly brainless.
Did you
It
just get TJ'd? You don't know what that word means.
stultifyingly?
Yeah, you don't know what that word means. Is that
Uh,
even a word?
I I don't think it is. I would be hard pressed. I mean, stultify maybe, but can you really add an ing? Like, I don't think you could add an ing and an ly to the end of a word. Like, that's too much.
Oh no, you can. If you can, if
That's
it's a, if stultify is a word, you can definitely put stultifyingly. I'm
that's
down with that.
that's too much. Get that out of there.
Is
Can
it
we get
Stult?
stultify? Stultify. I know stupefy. Disturb taught me that one, but I don't know stultify.
Wow, okay.
It even
So
got me.
stultify means cause to lose enthusiasm and initiative,
So it
especially
causes
as a result of a tedious or restrictive routine. I'm pretty sure they did not use that right.
I don't think then adding stupid after that makes that word work properly. But sure, guy, you do you. It manages to neither be a proper horror nor a proper comedy. From the ridiculous opening scenes to the bizarre, unexplained final scenes, it is truly dire. The plot is devoid of logic, which wouldn't matter so much if this was merely a wacky, gross out comedy, but it isn't. So many of the lines fall flat that you ask yourself whether they were actually meant to be funny or not. Add in a host of unfunny, unsuitable performances, including the worst English accent ever put in film, and you've got a movie that should be jettisoned into space for all eternity.
That's
Send
the
it to
joke, though,
Mars.
isn't it? That his English accent is bad. Like I thought that's like part of like the funniest part.
Also, like, wouldn't that be part of the joke? Is that like he's got a shitty English accent, kind
That's
of?
what I
Like,
just said.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like the joke is that he's not English. Like it's just a guy doing like a really dumb English accent.
It was nice to see that return to form where the movie is so bad it needs to be jettisoned out into the vastness of space. It's
Yeah,
not good
right,
enough to be
right.
kept here. It's got to be out into the vastness of space.
I gotta say, the more of these we read, the more people scare the absolute shit out of me. Like, because like we talk about like we should respect other people and like we should do this and we should do that. And then literally like somebody sees a movie that they don't like and they're like, I want to erase this from history. It's like, I don't know, man. Like maybe we should, maybe this is just how we're wired. I'm not sure.
I don't know, dude. I can't speak for what's going on in the human brain, but it's definitely a little out of control.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, one more question from that one for you.
yes, yes,
Should a good horror comedy be distinctly a horror or a comedy? Like it's kind of its own thing, isn't it?
yeah, it shouldn't. Like the fact that he needs it to be a proper one or the other is missing the point.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
horror comedy to me is like its own genre. It's not like a melding of two genres.
We got this next one. He goes, I'll keep this short since this movie doesn't deserve more attention. There's clearly only one reason that this movie has attained the inflated high score that it has, and that is lots of scantily clad women parading in front of the camera. Look at the voting history, and you'll see the male vote outweigh the female by more than 10 to 1. For a truer idea of the actual film quality of this weak effort, just look at the older male vote that is less inclined to have the little head doing their thinking. If a few more babes had popped their bikini tops, this movie may have made the top 250.
Oh my God. So I think we were stretching a little bit on the first two, but this guy's legitimately crazy. Like this guy like did an in-depth
Oh
analysis.
my
Oh, maybe
God.
not even that in-depth, honestly, but he did an analysis of the gender of the people who were voting.
I mean, any review that manages to sneak in little head into the review should really do a little bit more thinking in their day in their time.
Yeah.
Maybe they should be thinking with their big head too.
Yeah. I just man, that's something else. I was like half expecting him to be the production code guy again, to be like,
We
and
need to
in
bring
my
back the
day, the
production code.
production code would have saved us from such mediocrity.
The Hays Code was a thing for a reason. Responsible for all the greatness in this world. Bring it back.
Back in my
We got
day, tits were for feeding babies, and for that's it.
we got one last one star here. Another one that might really take the cake for nut jobs here. They write this film is a big waste of time. Every joke is beaten to death. None of the characters are likable, and I was glad when they died. Save your cash and go watch Fahrenheit 9/11, or just stay home and watch anything else. Not even Bill Paxton can save this, and that is saying something. I don't think there is a line in it that doesn't mention getting laid or getting drunk, and that is the highbrow humor. This isn't an homage to spoof movies or horror movies. This is a raping and humiliating of moviegoers and their love of movies. Whoever
Wow.
allowed this dross to be produced should be kicked out of Hollywood and sent to work in a nudie booth as a jizz mopper. They sure
Oh
don't
my
know anything about making movies.
golly. I
Like,
think that's the first time we've heard someone mention rape in one of these. That's
I
like,
think that might be the only time in the history of my life I've ever read a sentence where someone used jizz mopper as a
yeah, I'm sure that's from something. Like I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like there's a movie where like they talk about that specifically, like what happens in the booths after you're done. But
my God.
I
Like,
also like, man, it's weird with the benefit of hindsight to see like just how broken people are by 9/11. Like that guy went and saw Club Dread, and within the first three sentences, he's talking about 9/11. It's like, dude, why? Why?
what the fuck does it have to do with anything, man? Like,
So that shit about Vietnam,
dude,
Walter. Like,
like it's amazing how often that can be used. Like every week we could pull that out. Like
yeah, and I
every
mean,
week.
it's again, I'm pretty sure we just have the benefit of hindsight because in 2004, it makes sense that it was on a lot of people's minds. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it just kind of happened.
yeah, we're not
But
that far away.
but yeah,
Uh,
like I love how this guy like it's still crazy though to be like, yeah, I just watched a Broken Lizard comedy movie, and if you're thinking of watching it, you should watch Fahrenheit 9/11 instead. Like,
or to just like it's just a dumb comedy and to watch it and have such a visceral reaction that you consider it like a rape of moviegoers' intelligence is like such an insane stretch to make. Like,
insane. I'm pretty sure that like the concept of raping someone's intelligence isn't even a real thing. I don't even know what that means actually.
yeah, it's mind blowing
But
what.
it's okay, dude. It was back in 2004. Somewhere between then and now, people are gonna learn to watch how they talk on the internet, right?
And dude, that app's yeah, you're right. This is early internet. We're still figuring out the ins and outs. Like
Yeah.
we're
No,
definitely gonna
no.
get there. Obviously, that's not a problem today, right? Like people are
Yeah,
way
no, there's
more.
no way people like over exaggerate things and use like very strong verbs to describe things that they don't really describe. There's
It's so great to see how much we've grown since the internet of 2004. It's like 20 years has been such a blessing for
Yeah, I
us.
feel blessed. I feel blessed by you know what? I'm not even gonna say it. I just feel blessed.
So this person, we're gonna switch over to the 10 out of 10ers now.
Yeah, these
Uh,
are my people, and I probably should have listened to one before I said that, but
and we'll see how much you're gonna hold on to that. So this 10 out of 10 reviewer starts with, "You don't like Broken Lizard.
oh
Then
boy.
why in hell did you go and see Club Dread?"
You know
Okay,
what? I don't necessarily understand everything he's saying, but he still makes a good point. Like,
this movie was everything I hoped for coming from the lizards. And that, my friends, is the true essence of movies. Movies don't change life. I don't care about a touching story. All I want is entertainment. And I was when I watched Club Dread.
there we go. There we go. There's no way that guy is like involved in the downfall of society either. That guy's standing above these one-star reviews.
High
He's
above
like, I
opinion.
don't care about anything. Just make me laugh.
I just want to laugh. And to cap him off, he writes, "So if you don't like the movie or the ones that made the movie, just stay home and shut up.
There we
He will
go.
not stand for any type of blasphemy against Club Dread."
Yeah, I mean, he's not different than this is movie horseshoe theory again, because he is no different than the guy who was like, this movie should be banished to outer space. Like, he's like, if you didn't like this movie, man, just shut the fuck up. Like, I
It's
don't
like,
want to hear
shut
you
up.
talk about it.
Yeah. He's like, "You got some film criticism and analysis? I don't want to hear it. Shut up. It made me laugh."
Like, just like, can't we all just get along, man? Like, the guys, like, can't you just be like, oh, you didn't like it? That's cool. Maybe it's not your thing.
All right.
Like,
Listen, Jim, we don't live in the sensible middle ground of the IMDb reviews. It's just not where we jam, all right?
I know, yeah. I think I'm gonna try and make a drop for this because movie horseshoe theory is probably the most fascinating thing that's come out of this. Is that just like when you go to the extremes of these reviews, everybody's fucking crazy.
Not so different, you and I. Our next 10 star comes and he writes, "As a huge fan of Super Troopers, I had high expectations for the movie. And within the first 10 minutes, I was laughing my ass off. Great one liners, hysterical horror movie cliches used to great effect. I found this to be hugely entertaining and a movie that will definitely get better with repeated viewings. The opening scene is great and totally in line with classic Broken Lizard humor. Some great TNA provided by Brittany Daniels, Jordan Ladd, and the girl from 90210. Jesus, guy. It's great to see the setups coming and a surprise when they shock the crap out of you. Love it." Like, do you think he enjoyed the TNA?
I think he did. I had a bit of a hard time hearing you read that one because all three of my dogs just started going ape shit.
Well, listen, they really agreed with the super great TNA. They also
Maybe either that or somebody got like an Amazon package somewhere within a 5 mile radius. It's one of those two.
I don't know. We'll have to ask them later. But
Yeah.
Jesus, guy, like it's always so funny because we see this also a lot in the 10 out of 10ers. The just creeps that feel the need to just talk about how hot the person was, and that's why the movie was great.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy who maybe the other guy wasn't so wrong. Like, maybe that one-star review guy who was like, if you like this movie, you were just there for the TNA. It's like, this guy was like, nope, I mean, that's why I was there. Yeah.
And this
Like,
other guy was like, "You're goddamn right, I was there for TNA." Like,
yeah.
you telling me you weren't?
Yeah, which I mean is fine, but it's also like, it just seems, maybe this is a modern way to think of it too, because like, of how readily available TNA is in our day and age. But like, if you were really this into TNA, were you really going to the movie theater to see Club Dread back in 2003? Like that was your big draw?
I mean, I like TNA as much as the next guy, but I don't know if it drives my movie habits.
No, of course not.
And then we got one last 10 star here. And they write, we got this is Drew Grubsner writes,
Ooh.
"I have to admit, when I first left the theater, I wasn't sure how I felt. I think I was a little bit too tense because of the slasher side of it. I've never handled horror movies well. But as I looked back on it, I realized how brilliant a movie it is. I laughed my ass off. I resent the perspective that Broken Lizard only appeals to sex drug obsessed idiots because I think their brand of humor is definitely a cut above most Hollywood comedies and is at a level that hasn't been seen much on the big screen since Caddyshack. I'm also very relieved that they were able to pull off the whole movie without ever even remotely referencing Super Troopers. They have an unusual level of integrity, considering the lowbrow nature of the jokes. I can't wait to see it again, and I feel sorry for anyone too pretentious to appreciate the movie.
Here we
Parentheses.
go.
Parentheses, by the way, my SAT was 1420, so I wouldn't say this movie only appeals to morons.
Oh boy, here's the ever popular 10-star review qualifier. And the tens.
You think this is for reprobates? I got a 1420. What say ye now?
You think this movie's for dummies? I got a 710 on my math, bro. Can you calculate that?
I got my SATs, my PSATs, my LSATs, my
Oh my god.
cholesterol level.
It's like really amazing to like that guy couldn't just enjoy the fucking movie. He had a whole conversation in his head where he was like, I'm gonna write this review, and then people are gonna say I'm dumb because I like this movie, but boy, do I got the evidence.
And like he's also sitting there, he's like, dude, how many people that would like really look away from this movie will see the incredible intellect that I had to see this movie, and they'll be like, maybe I should give this one a chance.
Right, right. Like it's like you ever see those memes where like it's like the bell curve and like on the bottom of the bell curve it's like people saying something that seems really dumb like, "Oh, I love Club Dread." And then in the middle of the bell curve people are like, "Club Dread's stupid." And then all the way at the top of the bell curve it's like a Jedi and he's like, "I love Club Dread." Like
Yeah.
that's like what this felt like. Like he was just like, "No, actually, sir, you're too stupid."
Let me
So
intellectually
bad.
destroy
And
all
like
your reasonings.
the other thing, I mean, like I didn't do quite this good, but like, is a 1420 really a score to brag about on your SATs? Like, you're not getting into like Harvard, bro.
I,
Like, what are we talking about?
was it what's it out of now? Like, right? Wasn't it like originally 1600, but now it's like, well, didn't they raise it?
Yeah, well, they added like when we were in school, they added like an essay portion that
Yeah.
was like worth 800. But like I'm sure that guy means that on like the 1600 SATs. Like 1420 is a good score, but it's not like brag about it online good. Like it's
I,
like there's probably so many people that do that good.
I don't know if I'm the one to ask about great SAT scores. I don't remember mine, but it definitely wasn't immaculate.
Yeah. That
I
shows
was
what you know.
yeah, I
Did
was
you
too
like
pre
Club Dread, buddy? Where are you on the bell curve?
Jim, I couldn't concentrate on my SATs. I was too preoccupied with TNA.
Wait, the wrestling promotion?
Yeah, TNA, TNA, tits and ass, test, and Prince Albert. Obviously,
Tests and accolades.
that's who it was. Yeah, yeah, we got there. So now I guess we'll turn it over to us, see where we land on this, Jim. I think the first question, one that I was wondering that I wanted to ask you: would you consider this a spoof movie, or do you think it's more just in line with like a horror comedy?
I think it's pretty on the line. I'd say it's like pretty close to a spoof movie of horror movies. Yeah. I'd say that's more what they're going for than anything else. Cause it's like a lot of the, especially like those like 80s, like 70s and 80s slashers, like the summer camp like vibe.
Yeah,
It feels like it's doing a lot of that. Like it's almost like an 80s teen summer camp movie. But they were like, what if instead of teenagers, we just had like Jimmy Buffett fans? Like that's what this movie feels like to me. So I'd say it's pretty close. Yeah, if it's not, like I'd say it's like right on that line, and I would lean towards spoof movie. Yeah. What about you?
it straddles a fine line, and there's moments where I can see that it feels like a spoof movie, and then moments where it just feels like they love that type of genre that they just wanted to make their own one.
Yeah. I mean,
But I can see both areas. I think I tend to fall a little bit more towards it. Just seems like their version of wanting to do a horror comedy
yeah.
and less a spoof. But I can see like there still are spoof elements in it.
the reason I think it's a fine line is because it's not quite as stupid as most spoof movies end up being, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not quite as just like patently unserious as a movie like Airplane, where like reality doesn't even exist, you know what I mean? Like it's like silly to the point of like just like complete absurdity, you know? It's not quite that, but for especially like the way that they try and track down the killer and all like the way the killer is like using like song lyrics and the way the actual kills themselves happen feel like they're spoofing like those kinds of things in horror movies. Like in a slasher flick, um, when it's done really well, it's something like Jason like slamming somebody into a tree while they're like wrapped in a sleeping bag. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's so cool. But like when it's not done well, it always looks fucking stupid. You know what I mean? And like it feels like this movie is like, you see how stupid that is? Like, look at that.
I love that your choice for doing it well was to immediately go to Jason X
It's the
uh,
best one.
for your kill. That I really appreciate that about you. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Jason X is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. It's
Uh,
like not particularly close.
yeah, I could see all that. I guess what makes it feel like it stands different from spoof movies is so many. I guess because it's more subtle and not as overt, especially we come from the era of spoof movies that are so painfully like not subtle in what they're spoofing to the point that it's just a scene ripped right from that movie and
Right,
then
right.
making fun of it. Whereas this just seems to be its own story that has elements where they poke fun out of like, oh yeah, hey, like this is kind of like making fun of some 70s slashers, but you don't really have a pinpoint on which one exactly because we're kind of still doing our own thing. Like we still want it to be a horror comedy
Yeah.
while we're
And
also kind of sending up some of the tropes of it.
by the way, I do agree with you that it's like coming from a place of love, which is like, I don't think movies like Airplane are. Like, I think movies like Airplane are like, no, that's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking seen, and we're gonna make fun of that. I don't like that at all. I do think the guys like who made this movie probably really enjoy a lot of the movies that they're making fun of. You know what I mean?
Because it
And
definitely
like those
feels
70s and 80s slasher movies, like they're not necessarily taking themselves too seriously either. So like I don't know, it's like a fine line. I can't really decide. The more we
it,
talk about it, the more I don't have a good answer.
yeah, it is a fine line because you can even turn your attention to a lot of those like 70s and 80s slasher movies that are so painfully ridiculous. Like I don't remember which Friday the 13th one it is, but it's the one with Crispin Glover in it. And it's so unserious.
Right, right.
That
Well, there's
watching these movies, it feels very much like they were like, what if we paid homage to that because we really like those types of movies?
yeah, and I don't know if like real horror connoisseurs would call this one a slasher movie, but it's the one that comes to mind when you say a Friday the 13th movie is stupid. I think it's called Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
When he
Yep.
gets like an airstrike called on him, like in the beginning, like the premise of the movie is like they've like finally like the army has finally cornered Jason like for
Got rid of
years, like
them.
he's like, and they like literally like send like carpet bombs like over him. So like yeah, like it gets to that level. Like some of those movies are also very silly. Yeah,
We used to make cinema. Was that before
for
or
sure.
after he took the like cruise line boat to Manhattan for a sweet Manhattan vacation?
I think Jason Goes to Hell is when he's in Manhattan. Like,
Was it?
I don't
I
think
thought
he takes a cruise boat though. I don't know. I'd have to watch. I haven't seen any of those
not
movies.
like an
It's been
actual
like,
like big cruise liner. I think it's more like a party boat that like you'd like rent in like the city that like takes you
oh
around
yeah, maybe
like one of
because like
those.
I'm pretty sure, and don't kill me if I'm wrong here. Like you or anybody potentially listening to this. Like I'm pretty sure Jason Goes to Hell is when he gets killed by the airstrike in the beginning, and he
Yeah.
literally goes to hell. And then like somehow finds his way out of hell and he's just like possessing people in New York City and like committing murders.
I mean, you would know better than I have not seen I have never seen either of those Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah,
But you describing it has definitely pointed me in the direction of wanting to rectify that.
it's worth a watch. Even if you just watch the first like 10 minutes and then turn it off, it's worth it.
And we made cinema in the 80s.
Yeah.
But all right. So then to the actual movie, where does this kind of fall for you? How do you feel on this movie?
I mean, I don't like. I kind of like it. I like, especially like that they're making fun of Jimmy Buffett fans.
Yeah,
I
I think
thought
if
that
there's
was pretty good.
yeah, I think if there's like the one huge clear as cut day that everyone could agree on is great about this movie, it is Bill Paxton as Coconut Pete.
Yeah, he's
Like he's
hilarious.
he's so good as just that eternally drunk buffoon.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and everything he says is absolutely hilarious.
yeah. Especially you kind of brought this up a little bit earlier that when the one girl's just dead set on him playing Margaritaville.
Uh,
And he's like, no, I think you're thinking of Pina Colada Berg. And
what
he's like saying how he wrote it like way
like,
before Margaritaville. It's just like it's the kind of thing where whether it was true or not, a real life Coconut Pete would say that like at least once a day, right? Like
it's just so absurd. And I think what like helps make that scene so much funnier is how quickly everyone around him, as soon as she says that, gets all quiet and looks away,
right.
like they immediately know
Like
what's coming. Like,
like Coconut Pete is convinced that Margaritaville ripped him off, and now you're bringing it up, and we've heard this rant a million times.
it's so good. Yeah, he's far and away like the funniest part of it. Like two of my favorite lines of his. I just love when he comes up at one point to them and he's like, "Guys, is it too much trouble to ask? Sleep with the guests." Like,
Yeah, so good. And yeah, I also love like the way that the whole thing is set up is feels like a joke in and of itself. Like, because who the fuck would go to that resort? Like,
yeah, it's
it's like
insane.
25 people like hanging out and drinking, which okay, cool. But then like there's like a Pac-Man maze question
And
mark.
I'm not
Like
gonna lie, I would go to that resort just for that Pac-Man maze.
the, the Pac-Man maze is definitely not as cool as the movie makes it seem. Like if that was a real thing, it'd probably blow so hard.
I don't know, dude. The hot
And then
chick's
like
chasing me around.
they're doing like the lame like fashion show, like and it's like all just to sell merch. Like I just that cracked me up because it felt like they were kind of poking fun at the whole like Margaritaville brand because that's
Yeah.
really how that stuff looks to me. It's like people are like, oh, I got my like Margaritaville like I don't know beer stein or like salt shaker, and
Yeah.
it's like is that a real like really like you really think that's a cool thing to buy?
It's definitely a fun send up of that. Also the place is just an HR's nightmare. Like it just
Yeah,
show up like pure debauchery, like absolutely crazy. I love like the little, we talk about it a lot, like how the little things crack us up the most.
yeah.
And one of the things that gets me every time in this movie is every time they name a different Coconut Pete album, and it's got like the silliest title like you've ever heard.
Yeah, do you have a couple of examples? Because I don't
Uh,
remember any of them off the
what
top of my head.
there's like the sea shanty one. Fuck, what were the other ones? There was Take Another Hit was
Take
what it
another.
was. Yeah, Take Another Hit was a great one. What was the that's it was sea shanties and wet panties. That was the one.
Oh my God.
That fucking one was so good. And it had just like the songs on it. Was that was the one that had like Pina Colada Berg on it. Naughty Cal, like so many, like just they did a great job of really sending up Jimmy Buffett in this movie. And I think that's probably the best bit that they have in it, is when
Yeah.
they really lean into the humorousness of like his like kind of just like drunken island whimsical Jimmy Buffettness.
Yeah, I have a couple of other ones here. I just went on Google Gemini and asked, can you name the Coconut Pete albums mentioned in Club Dread? I don't, I have a feeling that not all, I have a feeling that these are all songs that they mentioned and not albums. But it has Pina Colada Berg here. It has Pleasure Island. Ponytails and Cocktails?
Dude, I used to love me and Zach quote that all the time. Like, never lose your tails, because then you'll just have pony cock.
And then this one, I have a feeling this is off the sea shanty album you were talking about. She's a comin', she's a blowin'.
Another great one.
And then that's really it has like the last one mentioned here is Naughty Cal, which I don't know what that is. I'm not sure.
Naughty Cal is the one that they use the most when they're writing the song lyrics on the board. So
Oh,
like
that's like
as
the actual like the clues to the murders. Is
yeah,
that one?
as they're like getting killed. And that's such a great scene is when they realize that they're lyrics from the songs and they're grilling Coconut Pete on the meaning of the song. And he's like, I don't fucking know. I don't
He's
even
like,
remember
what the
writing the song.
yeah, it's like you think I know what any of this shit means? Like
Yeah. And watching him get more and more frazzled as the movie goes on, to the point when he has the scene where he's talking to the workers and he's like, I'm going to show you to make Coconut Pete's paella. Does anybody know what's in Coconut Pete's paella? And they're just like staring at him blankly and he's like losing it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
coconut? He's like, yes, yes, God damn it.
Yeah. I love like that he is like head of security gets rolled in like 2 seconds. Like he like hypes him up as the guy who's gonna save them all and then the killer kills him right away.
Immediately.
Um
Which leads to
and
another
then
great one where he's like, Hugh and Hank are fucking dead. So are you threatening me, you little bastard?
yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, right, the you thing. That's the only other thing I remembered before I watched this was that there was a joke about the character named You where they all get confused.
So
Um the other like scene that really sticks out to me is like basically anything with um Penelope.
oh
Like
yeah.
Penelope is like killing it. But like is this guy's name Steve Lemmy? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, we talked about this in the Super Troopers episode. He was always my favorite of the Broken Lizard gang. And like so great as Mac in Super Troopers, and continues to be my favorite also in this movie as Juan, the diving instructor.
Yeah, him and Jay
Yep, go on. Yeah,
Chandrasekhar?
go on.
Chandrasekhar? Chandrasekhar.
Yeah, yeah. San Jurassic Park. Yeah, yeah. You got there.
Yeah, right. Him and those two, I think they stand out in this movie. I like, and then a little bit of Kevin Heffernan because like those three guys actually have like a shtick, you know.
Yeah.
Um, they stand out a little bit more than everybody else from Broken Lizard because like the other guys like who I believe play the brothers in Beer Fest are kind of just like generic dudes that are like, let's party, you know? Like there's like
Fun
not really
police.
as much like character to them, like not as much of a shtick. But
Definitely.
I love Steve Lemmy in this movie, specifically the stuff with Penelope, and specifically the scene when they know that the octopus is the next clue, and then she shows up with like a plate of calamari. Like, and he's like trying to like eat it and make it look like he's eating it, but he doesn't want to swallow it because he's like, no, the octopus. That should crack me up.
No, it's they are definitely far and away like the best parts of this movie. I find J. Scar very funny in this movie too, with his like shitty English accent.
Wait, is that
Um,
how you actually say it? Do you know how to pronounce it?
no, I'm Jim.
Okay.
I'm just committing is what I'm doing.
God, you said it so confidently.
That's it. That's all. That's 99% of it, bro. I commit confidently to however my terrible pronunciation is of it. And
Yeah.
most people, come on, Jim, we're ignorant Americans. You think people are going to correct me?
I mean, you fooled me, and I was pretty sure you didn't know how to say it. So, like,
But yeah, when they do the the great, this kind of lends itself to the spoof nature of what we're talking about when they're doing the everyone's sitting around the fire and they're telling the story of the camper that goes missing and like gets his
yeah,
penis cut off and they're like, where's my penis? And then freaking Jay jumps up and is like, no, was that the boy? It's like, you're an asshole, Putman.
yeah. And then they really got me because I was like, man, how hard was he like setting that up? Like, he really like must have like worked to get that tucked in while he was like sitting on that
Oh
log.
my God. Yeah.
And then the other guy was like already ready to do it. And I'm like, oh man, they nailed it. That's perfect because he knew he was gonna do it.
Yeah. So a very big background thing in this movie that I really want to know if you picked up on.
Okay.
Um, did you pick up on So, you know, we talked a little bit about Nate Faxon, one of the, you know, comedy guys from Beer Fest, who also shows up in this movie. Uh,
Star of Ben and Kate.
star of Ben and Kate. He plays one of the buddies with another guy who was actually the dude in Super Troopers who does the like bear fucker, like that guy. So the two
Wait,
of
who does
them,
the what?
when they go to find the when what's his name is like fake fucking the bear, and he's like bear fucker, do you need assistance?
Okay.
Yeah, so he's like the redheaded guy. So the two of them are background characters really in Club Dread. There's one scene where like they actually focuses on them and they're like scoping out all the hotties around the pool, and then they go and hug and they're like, dude, don't be gay.
Yeah, right. And like, but it's kind of like obvious that they're both kind of into it.
Yeah. So do you pick up on the scene later when all hell is breaking loose and you spot them in the crowd fucking each other?
No, I did not see that.
So so they have that scene where they're like, dude, don't be gay. And then later on, when Steve Lemmy, Brittany Daniel, and I believe it's Kevin Heffernan, they're running away from the guy after he's revealed that he's the killer. And they run out and you see everybody going nuts. Like there's a one dude runs by naked, another guy jumping into the pool, and they're going nuts. You see those two dudes in the watermelon and pretzel costume, and that one of them is just fucking the other one doggy style.
Oh, no way. They wore the costumes again, too.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such a funny, just blink and you'll miss it background shot. And when I remember first noticing it like way back when on like maybe like my like ninth viewing of it when we watched it ad nauseum in high school. And it was one of the few things I remembered to look for watching it this time. And I die every time. I'm like, it's such a silly thing to put in the background. But
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
once you notice it, I die every time.
I'm probably gonna watch it again, even if just that part to see it, because it's actually pretty funny.
Go back and do your due diligence on that one because when you spot it, it's so silly. And there's even a moment where like it cuts back to the main characters and then cuts back to the thing again, and you see them and they've switched. It's
It's,
it's, it's so silly.
oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, and I mean like I kind of touched on the only thing that I really didn't like, which was it just felt like a good number of the dudes from Broken Lizard were kind of just like window dressing in this movie.
They're just kind of like there.
Um, and then of course it's kind of silly and like not like it's funny, but it's like I don't know. It's like it's the interesting thing about the show is that we do movies like Club Dread like a few weeks after we do movies like Return of the King. It's like they're not really the same thing, so it's like I
Yeah.
can't. I feel like I can't go too hard on a movie like Club Dread because it's just silly, you know?
They don't operate on the same level. A bunch of the reviews said, like it's a dumb comedy really when you get down to the end of the day. It made me laugh a bunch of times. There was also a bunch of times where I was like, those jokes don't really work for me. Like the Kevin Heffernan as the masseuse that like knows your pressure points and like immediately makes you come. Like that really really do anything for me. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, pretty
so
silly.
yeah, so it's just it's a fun dumb comedy. Do I put it to the level of Super Troopers and Beer Fest? No, I did when I was in high school, but watching it now this time, I see that this one's definitely inferior to those ones. I do think it's probably on the line of like some of the better, you know, just silly comedies that we've done, but it's definitely like probably more in the middle of the road on these list of comedies that we've gone through here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like pretty near the top of the ones we've done, but I agree it's like not really in the same tier as the best Broken Lizard
Best of
stuff.
those. One thing that I will note that I absolutely agree with that one reviewer on, I respect the hell out of them for not making one Super Troopers reference in this movie
Yeah,
because
that's true.
yeah, because they easily could have like gone to that well a bunch of times, and I respect them for having the restraint to not do that.
Yeah, and I mean the people who came to see it like opening weekend probably would have appreciated it, but it is like real low-hanging fruit, right? And like I feel like movies do have a tendency to kind of shoehorn that kind of stuff in there.
Or like rest on their laurels. Like it was like that's what made us famous. Like that's what people are coming for. They want to see the hits. We're gonna sneak them in.
Right, right.
And it's just like, I'm very happy that you guys didn't do that. I'm happy that you went in this completely different direction. Might not hit it as far out of the park as Super Troopers does, but I still enjoy their brand of humor. And it's definitely, I will say, you know, like we've done a bunch of comedy movies in this era, and we're slowly starting to see as we're doing these how comedy is changing. And I've always, if there's one thing I've appreciated about Broken Lizard, is their comedy has always been unique to them and not so much trying to be like other comedy. Like this is not a comedy in the same way that some of the spoof movies we've done are comedies. It's
Right.
not comedy in the same way that you've seen old school. Like there's some moments where
Right.
they overlap, but I like that they have their own brand of humor.
Yeah, they're like very. It's like it's almost similar to old school in a way because I feel like a lot of their first like handful of movies are like, what if a bunch of like kind of deadbeats who just kind of like to party like did X or Y or Z, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what old school is like. Like it's like although old school does have more of the what if a bunch of deadbeats who like to party were getting a little old, you know? Like and then like what does that mean for their lives? But I think it's also interesting because Club Dread doesn't fit quite as well into that box as other ones. Like Super Troopers is like, what if a bunch of deadbeats who just like to party were highway cops, you know? And then Beer Fest is like, what if a bunch of deadbeats who just like to party got to go to a beer drinking competition, you know? And it's like that's the best one, I think. But this one's kind of like doesn't fit that mold as well in a way. Like it's like not that I believe me, I think that a lot of Jimmy Buffett fans are deadbeats who just like to party. Don't get me wrong. but there's almost like it loses a little bit of that quality where they're the deadbeats because like everyone in this movie is a deadbeat, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You see, it's not just them, it's everyone around them. Even straight up to Coconut Pete, the deadbeat of deadbeats.
Right, right.
So yeah, but an interesting food for thought that I like to give this olive branch to this movie just for their unique brand of comedy. And I don't know that I have that much else really to comment on Club Dread. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you feel the need to explore?
Nah, not really. And like I don't even know that there's a big IMDb deep dive to do here, right? I mean, like, what do you have anybody in particular you want to talk about?
Really, because most of these guys will. The only other movie is going to be, hey, Beer Fest, and we're going to get there down the road. The
Right. The
biggest the
Broken
biggest
Lizard
route,
guys all seem to work together a lot. I mean, like, we
yeah,
already talked about Tacoma FD.
yeah,
One of
the
the Broken
biggest,
Lizards guys is the director of this,
yeah,
you know?
like the biggest route you could go would be Bill Paxton, but like, do we want to
But
do
yeah,
him now,
we're
or do
not
we
gonna
want,
do Bill Paxton for this movie because
yeah,
it's
for
gonna be
Club
a whole
Dread,
lot of
yeah,
do you take,
yeah,
like,
exactly, and then
do
it's
you
the same
take this
thing.
dumb movie that he probably filmed in like 2 weeks, or do you take like I don't know, give me a Bill Paxton movie? What do you think?
True Lies.
Yeah, right. Or do you take True Lies? Like it's like
You
obviously
take
there's
Twist, yeah.
differences.
You take Club Dread, or you take Twister. Like, gee, let me think about that one for a second. And you're not really gonna do like Brittany Daniel because the only other movie we know her from we're going to do eventually with White Chicks. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I mean,
uh,
really, the movie to do her for is Joe Dirt. I guess if I had one, do you take Club Dread
yeah,
or Edge of Tomorrow for Bill Paxton? See, I'm just highlighting how dumb that idea is, right? Like you
exactly.
can't
Like
go through Bill
you're
Paxton.
you're you're comparing apples to oranges. It's just not feasible.
Right.
Where would you? I guess maybe a thing we could explore a little bit is we talked a little bit about it because obviously we realize it's not reaching the heights of Super Troopers or some of the other big comedies. Where would you put this in line with the other comedy movies that we've done on this pod? But so far we've done. If we want to go through it, I have it up here, Jim. If you want me to read off what we've done
Yeah.
so far. So for comedies, we've done so far our highest rated one is Old School. Obviously, we said it's not touching the
Okay.
heights of quite Old School or Super Troopers. But some other notable comedies that we've done: Kung Pao Enter the Fist,
Better than that. Yes, it beats that.
definitely better than that. Your favorite comedy, potentially, American Wedding.
Yeah, definitely beats that. That movie
uh,
sucks.
we did Dumb and Dumberer when Harry met Lloyd.
It beats that.
Mhm. Um, I guess this one fits more into the rom-com realm, but still technically a comedy. Just Married.
It beats that.
Yep. Shallow Hal.
Uh, I think it beats that too.
There we go. All right, so we're starting to get to that area where you're
Are
pausing.
you are you're in agreement on all these so far, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you hit
Yeah.
one that I didn't agree with, I would counterclaim. But I'm with you so far. Head of state.
It beats that.
Ooh.
Begrudgingly, but I think it beats that.
Black Knight.
Ooh, tough. I think that's tougher. I think Black Knight might be my pick.
Yeah, yeah. I think if there's anyone that it would come across, Black Knight would be the one still to beat it. Yeah, and then so that makes that we've done a couple other ones, but it seems like if we're not jumping over the barrier of Black Knight, there's really no reason to bring up other ones like Euro
Yeah,
Trip,
right. Like you're not gonna take How to Lose a Guy over How to Lose a Guy in
or
10
How to Lose a
Days,
Guy,
Gold
even though those are
Member.
two very different types of comedies.
The only other one that I see on this list that I'm interested to see what you would say, Shanghai Nights.
Shanghai Nights. That was certainly a movie. Um, I'd say I'd probably put those about on par with each other. I don't know that I
I think I
particularly
would put Club Dread ahead of Shanghai Nights. Shanghai Nights was pretty painful.
don't know
Like
that I have.
upon further
Yeah,
reflection, I think Shanghai Nights was rough, and I'm gonna like probably never watch it again.
yeah, that's fair. I don't see myself ever watching Shanghai Nights again, whereas I could be persuaded to watch Club Dread again after a while, simply just because Bill Paxton's performance is just legendary. So yeah, I would go Club Dread then also. So yeah, all right. So
All
so
right,
it's
yeah. So a
about
quick one on IMDb there.
yeah, so it's about like the middle of the road, which is about where we expected. I think that's fine for Club Dread. So I guess that's a perfect segue then to see where it's going to end up falling in on our actual list here, so we could dive into our star ratings.
Now we're gonna play a not so fun game where all of the things that we just talked about are probably not gonna match up with the star ratings we gave them.
Oh, I guess we'll have to see. Uh,
I'm
I'm
gonna give Club Dread
I'm
2 point.
assuming.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
you're going. Oh, I was going to assume we're not getting our Roger Ebert drop.
No, no. I believe me. If I was gonna play it, you would have heard it by now.
That's fair, very fair. Do you want to take a guess? How you want to take a guess at what Roger Ebert gave this movie?
I don't know. Sometimes the Ebes is hard to gauge because like there's some movies that I think are really dumb that he'll hate, and then he has like actual good film critic reasons for thinking they're not so bad. But I'm gonna say he gives this a 2 out of 4.
Ooh, very close. He gave it a 2.5 out of
Oh,
4. He writes, whether it works or not is hard to say. Like Super Troopers, it has lovable performances, big laughs, and then some downtime where everybody just waits to see what will happen next.
God, Raj is so smart. He's perfect at encapsulating what these movies are.
Takes it right down to its core. That's why he is the king. But all right, Jim, I think we heard it sneaking in there from you. Was that a 2.5 I was hearing out of you?
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah, that's I'm kind of on the same clip, which is a little bit lower than Raj's out of 4 because mine's out of 5. But yeah, 2.5.
2.5. That's fair. I think I would go, yeah, just about that too. I'm going to give it a 2. It has all that fun stuff, like we said, but it falls in line with a lot of these other comedies that we've done where the comedy is very hit or miss. And like Raj says, there's a lot of moments where you're just kind of like treading water until you get to the next joke that actually works for you.
Yeah.
But Bill Paxton's performance and Broken Lizard's unique brand of humor still work for me. So like when their joke hits, it hits hard. So I'm gonna give this bad boy a 2. So with a 2 from me and a 2.5 from you, Jim's going to give us an overall score of 4.5. So now we'll do some battle with some 4.5ers. And Jim, honestly, I think this is going to line up perfectly because our first battle here is: do you take Club Dread or do you take Head of State?
Club Dread. We just talked
Yeah,
about that. Yeah,
yep.
I'll take
You
Club
take
Dread.
Club Dread. So now, Jim.
Begrudgingly though, Head of State, I really want it to be better than it was because I really enjoyed that movie when I was a kid. But yeah, I'll take Club Dread.
Now, Jim, do we take Club Dread or do we take Black Knight?
Black Knight still.
Black Knight. Absolutely Black. So look, that worked out exactly how we had hoped for. We planned for that. We were just so meticulously thought out. We knew we were going to get there.
It is interesting though that a lot of the ones that were harder for us to pick were like all the same score. Like, ooh, at least we have some consistency. Good for us.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, little pat on the back there. We know, and we definitely weren't. There was one more 4.5 ahead of Black Knight, and it was SWAT. So
Yeah, it can't beat SWAT.
yeah,
No way.
can't beat SWAT.
There's no
So
way.
yeah, so Club Dread gonna settle in the number 48 spot, sandwiched between Black Knight and Head of State, and I think that's a nice little spot to be in. So good for you guys. Do you want to take a guess at next week?
Um, you gotta give me a hint. What am I just supposed to guess a random one? I don't think I
So
saw anything in the box office
you
that
did
you
not.
already
We
saw.
did not go over anything in the box office. So your hint is it is it was a very popular cartoon in I believe in the 70s that has now been turned into a live action franchise, and we are doing the live action franchise.
I mean, that seems like a pretty easy hint at face value. I'm gonna guess, but what year did the first one come out? It was definitely before 2004, right? So it's gotta be the second one. Scooby-Doo 2, that's my guess.
Whoa, right on the money.
Hey,
We-
all
we-
right.
there
Yeah,
you go. Yeah.
that was an easy hint. A cartoon from the 70s that got made
Yeah.
into a live action movie in the
Oh,
early
listen,
2000s. Like
Jim,
there's like only one.
I'm not trying to make this the $1 million question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I
No,
want
no,
you.
no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I'm just saying like it's like it wasn't like a giant leap for me to get there, you know?
So yeah, so we're switching it up. We're going into the family-friendly genre. I think this one will be a fun one to dive into just because it's written by James Gunn, something that I didn't know until long after I had no interest in watching these movies again.
Yeah, he wrote both of those
He wrote
Scooby-Doo
both of
movies,
these.
if I remember
Uh,
correctly.
yeah, so I see this one holding up in a fun way, very different from the way Cat in the Hat is framed. Because like I feel like these might be two movies. Because James Gunn, I feel like also has a filthy sensibility, but I feel like he'll do a much better job with subtle jokes in Scooby Doo 2 than like Cat in the Hat did.
I remember thinking that these movies were like pretty on the ball for Scooby-Doo like antics, so I'm interested to go back.
So that one's going to be a fun one to do. So I am also interested there. That'll be so. Make sure you tune back next week when we dive into Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. Do you have anything to leave the people with, Jim? Right now, what are you jamming on?
I saw finally on its Oscar re-release the movie The Substance.
Yeah, I also just
Holy
watched
shit.
The Substance. Yeah, that you could do a whole dissertation on that movie. Jesus, cheese and crow that
Yeah,
movie.
that's a whole nother thing, but if you enjoy like surreal like body horror, go check out The Substance. You probably have already if you enjoy surreal body horror, but it checks all the boxes. It's so good.
And I imagine most people out there, if you're listening to movie podcasts, like you're heavy in on movies and you've probably sunk your teeth into The Substance.
My pick for Best Picture, and I don't care that you think
Substance.
seeing only 3 out of the 10 movies shouldn't qualify me to pick one, but I'm picking one.
No, you're listen. Whether or not it qualifies it, you're more than entitled to that right to pick it. What are the three? Substance,
Uh,
Wicked. I'm
Wait, go
guessing is
ahead.
the second one.
Substance, Wicked, and then what's your third guess?
Fuck. What else?
I think there's a
Dune.
real
Dune.
bad trap for you here that you're gonna think I would have seen that I did not see.
All right. So then that makes me think that you didn't see Dune Part Two.
Correct. I did not see Dune Part 2.
Oh fuck. All right. So what's the other one? All right. So it's an Honora, A Complete Unknown, The Brutalist. There's no way you saw The Brutal. Was it A Complete Unknown?
No.
Fuck. What the hell else was nominated
I don't know. Bring it up.
that you would have saw? Yeah. Now I gotta pull it up, Jim. Jesus Christ, making me remember these movies. I don't even know. I don't even know what to write in. Just tell me what is it. I don't feel like googling it. What was the third movie? So I can kick myself when you've said it. Oh no no no
Honestly,
no no no! I got it. Conclave. Conclave.
yeah, Conclave. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Came back.
Okay.
It came
Honestly,
back to
I
me.
had completely forgotten once you started looking it up what it was. So I was like, hold on, now I need to go look it up.
Nope. I remember because now I remember we were talking about Conclave. So it's Conclave.
Yeah.
Um, three decent. Do you plan on checking any more of these out before? Because that was gonna be my question to you as we do these recommendations. Is the nominations dropped. Do you go in and try and watch all the Best Picture nominees, or do you not give a fuck about any of it?
I mean, I definitely give less of a fuck about it now than I did a long time ago. You know, like back in 2004, I would have really cared like who got nominated and who won.
Yeah.
I don't particularly care as much these days. And like I'm definitely not gonna go out of my way to watch any of the Oscar movies, like because they're Oscar movies. I think I'll eventually watch Dune 2 at some point. I kind of got bummed that I missed it in theaters, and it's the kind of movie that, like, if I didn't see it in theaters, I'm probably just gonna wait like 10 years until it gets re-released in theaters. You know what I mean? Like,
Right?
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
watch it on like Max, like, no fucking
Yeah.
way.
Wait for the old re-release. Yeah, if there was any of those that I would say, is, perfectly up your alley, like Dune Part Two
Honora
is
is the other one that I want to see,
yeah, I would.
specifically because you recommended it to me before.
Yes, and Honora would be my big one to recommend to you because that is just a fantastically great movie. That would be my pick for a winner at Best Picture, but it seems like that movie's kind of run out of steam. It went home empty-handed at the Golden Globes. It's not really winning anywhere else.
Yeah,
So it seems like a movie that's just going to have to settle for the nominations because it seems like it's pretty much a battle between The Brutalist and Amelia Perez this year, which,
yeah,
I wanted to ask you quickly because, we talked about it in the Lord of the Rings episode, just wondering if we were ever going to see like big, huge nominations with big, huge wins. And now Amelia Perez picks up 13 nominations, joining only a small handful of movies that have ever gotten 13 nominations.
right.
And it's crazy that we could possibly be looking at another era where maybe we get another one.
Yeah, that's a movie I'm gonna have to go see because, or like watch somewhere
It's on
because,
it's on Netflix. Uh,
gotcha.
and that was
Okay.
actually I was going to use it as my movie, not as a recommendation, but just as, kind of a segue for us to, talk about the Oscars and everything. Is I can't think of another more tone deaf movie for them to be shepherding and cheerleading on than this movie.
Yeah.
Jim,
The reason
it's
I said I was gonna have to see it is because, like, I hesitate to say anything about it without actually having seen it because,
yeah.
like, if I had to put money on it, like, I would say there's like a non-zero chance it's the cause of the Second Civil War. So,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like have like a big opinion about it because I haven't seen it and like I want to see it before I say anything.
Yeah, it's if it wins, it's definitely shaping up to be like Crash all over again.
Yeah, people are like already angry. And it's interesting because from what I've seen, like people on either side of things are angry. Like on one
Because
side
it's
for obvious reasons, and then on the other side for people being like, this is like not cool for trans people. Like there's people who think like like you like Green Book or like Crash, like you said, like that it's just very tone deaf.
it's very tone deaf and very shallow. Although I will say, obviously, I don't know if I would lump Green Book in with that. Definitely the vitriol response to it definitely looped in with those
Oh
other
yeah,
movies.
yeah, yeah. I don't mean I think that
But
about Green Book. I mean
yeah,
that's what a lot of people thought about
yeah,
Green Book.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought the overall reaction to Green Book, which is a movie I have seen, was like pretty ridiculous.
It
Like,
was pretty insane. Like, do I think it deserved to win Best Picture? That's another story. But I don't think that movie is as bad that it needs to be lumped in with the Crash and now Amelia Perez kind of movie where like those two movies specifically take a subject matter that deserves the actual meat and potatoes and just delivers a very hollow and shallow idea of that type of movie.
yeah,
It's and so and Jim, there's one thing if there's anything I can leave you with in Amelia Perez. So I watched this movie just recently because I'm in the same boat as you and it got the third. I was planning on watching it anyway because I like to watch all the movies that are nominated so I could kind of have like a thorough grasp.
right.
Um and when it got the 13 nominations, I was like, all right, now I have to watch this movie. I got to see what the deal is. And I throughout all of this movie, I just consistently was like sitting there, and in my head, I was like, I can't believe they made that choice. I can't believe they made that choice.
Yeah,
That's fucking insane. And like I think what also makes it like also crazy is that they decided to make it a musical as well to broach this subject matter.
it's a musical.
Yeah, yeah, Jim, it's a musical. Which is
Oh
not to
my
say,
god,
that can't work. But
that's the craziest twist I've heard ever.
yeah,
That movie's a
yeah.
musical.
But you better damn well make sure it works if you're gonna go that route.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean,
and
I will
so,
say though, one thing that I can say for Amelia Perez with what I know about it, and all I know about it is the premise. When I first read the premise, I was like, "Oh man, that sounds wild. Like that sounds like pretty interesting, actually." And then everything I've heard about it since then is not nearly as interesting as my original reaction. So I'm like, I need to go see it. That's kind of where I'm at.
And so I'll leave you with one thing to kind of like spice yourself up to watch this movie.
I mean, you
So
already said it's a musical.
yeah, well,
That's like that's some
yeah.
spice right there.
So one of the songs, I don't know the name of the song, but they decide that the appropriate time to bust into song is when Zoe Saldana is at a sex change clinic and she's asking the doctor questions about the procedure. And they decide that it's a good idea to sing that in song. And so one of the lyrics is her singing man to woman or woman to man. And then the doctor sings back penis to vagina. And I don't think I've ever laughed harder in my entire life because it is the most ridiculously tone deaf way to deliver a message in my entire life. Like the way
Yeah,
they sing it is so ridiculously over the top.
I
I was
could
like, how
see.
can anyone take this seriously?
I need to see it before I say anything. But based upon what you just said, I could see where they are not treating what is, I would imagine, a very serious subject matter, no matter who you are, whether you like love it or hate it, you know? That they're treating that with like show tunes, you know? Like, I can't even, it doesn't seem like that would be a good idea, but I guess we'll see.
It's it's wild. And it only gets wilder from there. So definitely at least give that one a shot if to not understand where Holly and I like and it's a movie that I watch now and it's weird because there's this very huge divisiveness to it where everybody in Hollywood that like writers, directors, artists and everything are like gung-ho about it. But any like regular person or critic or even like they brought that movie to Mexico and the Mexico community was like absolutely fucking not. The trans community is like absolutely fucking not.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's like
that,
it's this
by the way,
weird
that's the
shit.
part that makes the movie so interesting to me, just reading the premise, is like a Mexican cartel, like drug lord making that decision. Like, that's interesting to me. You know what I mean? Without taking any kind of like stance on anything. Just that, like, decision, a character making that decision is interesting to me.
I would be with you there. Like that's a story that feels like if they took it the right route could work. And I don't know if the route that they took of the musical is the was the route that needed to be taken for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a musical. It's such a crazy thing. Like, I've been reading a bunch about this movie. Like, not, believe me, not because I was trying to, just because it's fucking everywhere.
Everywhere
Like,
right now. And so
and like, I never would have guessed in a million years that it was a musical. That's so funny. I thought it would be like a really like a drama, like a really like dense drama, and it seems like it's not that at all.
it is not. It's not that at all. So take with that what you will. We'll see what happens come Oscar night with that. But I just, yeah, I it's so crazy that it's at such a so many noms for a movie that just feels like outside of the artistry of Hollywood, nobody likes.
Well, yeah, I mean that's nothing new though, right? Like you could say the same thing about Shape of Water, honestly. Like, and that's not too far off.
I feel like Shape of Water was not as derided critically and commercially at all.
I could be wrong, but I think the people you're talking about outside of the bubble of Hollywood artistry were all like, so what do you mean the movie's about fucking a fish? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that? That's what the movie's about? That's Best Picture? Like I feel like that was way more the topic of conversation than all the reasons that movie might have won, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I'm not doubting that those people,
I
that there
think
wasn't a healthy smackerel of those people out there.
I think the biggest difference is I get a feeling that you did not like Amelia Perez and you did like Shape of Water. So you're like, well, yeah, Shape of Water would win Best Picture, of course.
I don't even know if that one really deserves Best Picture either. I do like Shape of Water. I don't
Yeah,
dislike that
yeah.
movie. But it just feels like, and I remember when Shape of Water came out, and a lot of people were talking about that. But this one just feels like it has so much more unity in everyone across the board
Right, right.
disliking this movie,
Like at
except
least some
Holly.
people were out there who were like, finally a movie about fucking a fish. Like
Like
now people are all like, what the fuck is that thing? Like,
I've been sitting at home looking at my fish tank, just waiting for someone to speak a movie to my language. Uh,
But I don't know. I like this is feels like such a hot button and I haven't seen it. So I am like my anxiety is at a 10. I'm treading like all kinds of dangerous waters here. Let's
he's
stop talking about him in your
he's
presence until I watch it.
he's sitting on the red button right now, the panic
Yeah,
button,
right.
just waiting to push it. But yeah, so yeah, I would say watch that movie. If you were going to watch any of the Oscar movies, I'd say that one so that, like even if it's not on air and we just have the discussion about it.
Yeah,
Because I'm itching to talk about it with somebody, and you're my go-to guy.
preferably let's talk about it not publicly. let's let's keep that one under wraps.
Sorry, people, you can't come to this one.
Yeah.
This one's the unrated cut. We'll put it out on DVD 10 years from now. It's not coming out right now.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
neither not that either actually. Nope, we're not doing that either.
it's going locked in the vault. But we turn it now over to you people. Let us know down below what you thought of Club Dread if you were Broken Lizard fans. And make sure you dive back in with us next week when we tune into Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. And as always, we'll see you at the movies.